Okay, hi, this is Kelly again. I took a look at my figure in the traditional Tabaro Venetian cape and the black hat and stuff, and I still feel like, one, I think in general he's too light. There's too much transparency going through here, I think, but also he's not, I want him as a center of attention, and it needs to be dark with dark, needs to be a little bit more. Also, I'm going to darken this. You're not going to see so much light on the rock there, so I want to think about that. It gets a little lighter, but it gets lighter on the side of the rock that's facing down, like this is dark here. It gets lighter there, but it doesn't get too much lighter on the part of the stone that's actually facing us. See? So I should probably work on that a little more. Anyway, to get back to him, when I took a look at it from a distance and did a critique, I don't like this shadow because it goes round and then it gets too thin here. And what it looks like is that this part of the form here gets all of a sudden really thin, and it doesn't. This is a figure in the round. I mean, granted, our bodies are elliptical more than they are cube, so this, though, is going to be casting a little bit more, and maybe I need to put more in front to give him a body. You see what I'm saying there? And make that a gradual round elliptic kind of thing. And again, darker. Where the legs touch the pavement, there's not space for light to go around so much. And then where there's more airiness and the light can bounce around in different places, then you're going to get lighter. But I want to darken this stuff just a little bit more, also inside. But I want to change the shape a little bit. But first I think I'm going to darken underneath the hat for some of his head coming through and a little bit of neck space, and collar, of course, collar for the jacket, or for the cape. Tabaro, T-A-B-A-R-R-O is how it's spelled in English. Now, another thing, I felt the shoulder was way too broad there, and so I want to take the kneaded eraser and pull this to shape it a little bit more. Because when you wear a cape, of course, your shoulders are so broad, and then your elbow comes down, and usually you have your hands out like this a little bit. So the angle here is going to be different than the angle falling vertical from whatever point is sticking out the most. Does that make sense? So I want to sort of pull this in and give him a little bit of a down pull for the shoulder, and the same on this side. In the reference material, it wasn't actually even on both sides, so I'm okay with that, but I don't want perfect people either, because none of us are. Alright, so for right now, I know I have to fix the background to match that, but the other thing is, do you see how I extended the dark line in here before? I said we've got to make this a little bit darker, so that you see it as a transparency. This is darker, but I also need to do the same thing with the light. This light needs to come in lighter here. Okay, to continue that transparent idea. But now I want to go in and knock this back down where I took it out. I do want this background lighter than the figure, but I don't want to make it look like all of a sudden there's a weird shape there that doesn't make any sense. So I've got to put some of that charcoal back in. Okay, and I always save my dust, because at the beginning of a drawing, when I'm doing things like this, I can always dip a sponge into the dust and then use that to spread it around, and that way I don't waste material either. I mean, charcoal's not expensive, but I'm just in a habit of not throwing away things I don't need to throw away. So I want this outline to come in a little bit darker. Let his elbow go out and then change the angle to come down this way, okay? Now that's a little bit low for his elbow, I think, maybe, but he's a ghost, so he can do what he wants. And so I find, because I sharpen my charcoal only on two sides, two angles like this, and I get a fine point at the top, but I have to sharpen more often. It's not going to be doing this thing. I find that working sideways and dragging a lot releases more charcoal, and then when I'm not releasing charcoal, that's when I know, come back in and sharpen a little bit. But you see, I sharpen very little because I just don't have patience for that. So I do what I need to do to get the material to come off on the paper in the way I want it to. But other than that, I don't enjoy spending all the time standing over a garbage can or whatever. Okay, and remember, I'm still trying to put dimensions in this, so I still want a little bit of darkness more on this side. So I'm trying to balance that here. Leave your comments below if you feel like this is working for you or you have a question. Put them in there and I'll be happy to answer them as well as I can. Okay, and again, I told you the bumps on these hats are not equal. It's like having a side part. So I'm going to darken this side of the hat here. I like what I did with the trim on it. Maybe I need to put a little more shadow on this side because, again, if the light's coming from up here, there will be a little shadow cast from the roundness of the hat and the head cast onto the lid right here, okay? That's a subtle detail, but again, the subtle details are what makes something worth looking at. You know, the rest is just competent work. The other stuff is, wow, exquisite. And I'm shooting for the awe factor as much as I can. Okay, so I still feel like maybe this is a little bit light in here. And again, because the light is further away, this should be covering up just a little bit more of the white poster. You should see a change of light. The variation of tone is always more interesting to the brain than just having a solid, blank, flat screen. Plus, my art is more about dimensions and atmosphere than it is about shapes and pattern, which is what you would do if you had a flat tone. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm kind of liking this a little better. Put a little more darkness down in here. Put some dark in there. Give some whooshy. See, that would be lighter, and then as it curves back around into itself, it's going to be a little bit darker there. Okay, so it's just something I'm playing with. Maybe it won't work at all. Okay. So now you can see how I'm developing the figure a little bit, and it's going to keep going like this until I'm satisfied. All right. Thank you for watching. This is Kelly Borsheim at BorsheimArts.com. That's BORSHEIMARTS. Thank you for watching. Share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.